The October wind swept across the gravel road leading to Willow Creek Farm, carrying with it the scent of dried grass and distant pine forests. The sky stretched endlessly above the Montana plains, a canvas of steel-gray clouds threatening rain. In the distance, the Rocky Mountains stood like silent sentinels, their peaks already dusted with early snow. A black Tesla Model S slowed as it approached the weathered wooden gate marking the entrance to the property. Behind the wheel sat Wei Chen, a min rouge-tailored charcoal suit and polished appearance seemed entirely out of place in this rural landscape. His hands, once calloused from farm work, now bore only the softness of boardroom negotiations and first-class flights. At 34, Wei had transformed himself from a struggling immigrant farmhand into a tech millionaire with offices in San Francisco and Shanghai. But today, success felt hollow. Wei's dark eyes scanned the property through the windshield, taking in details both familiar and foreign. The old red barn still stood, though its paint had faded to a rusty brown. The white farmhouse looked smaller than he remembered, its porch slightly sagging on one side. But there were changes. Those solar panels gleamed on the barn's roof, a new greenhouse stood near the tree line, and several modern irrigation systems crisscrossed the fields. 7 years since he'd driven away from this place, from the woman he'd promised to build a life with, chasing an opportunity that had seemed too important to pass up. 7 years since he'd chosen ambition over love, telling himself it was temporary, that he'd come back once he'd made something of himself. But temporary had stretched into months, then years. Phone calls became emails, emails became text messages, and eventually, there was only silence. Wei pressed his thumb against the steering wheel, his jaw tightening. He hadn't come back for nostalgia. He'd come because 3 weeks ago, his younger sister might have let something slip during a video call, something that had haunted him ever since. You know Sarah still owns the farm, right? She is doing really well. The whole town talks about how amazing she is, especially considering everything she has been through alone. Alone. The word had echoed in Wei's mind constantly. Alone with what? What had Sarah gone through? When he depressed my full details, his sister had suddenly become evasive, changing the subject with an awkwardness that only deepened his unease. It was that evasion, that loaded pause, that had ultimately driven Wei to book a flight from San Francisco to Missoula and make the 2-hour drive to Willow Creek. He needed answers. He needed to know why his sister's voice had cracked when she mentioned Sarah's name. He needed to understand what everything meant. Wei pulled through the gate and drove slowly up the dirt driveway, his tears crunching over gravel. As he approached the house, he saw her. Sarah Mitchell stood on the porch, her blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a faded blue flannel shirt rolled up to her elbows. She held a basket of what looked like freshly harvested vegetables against her hip. Even from a distance, Wei could see that she'd changed. She was thinner than he remembered, her face more angular, with new lines around her eyes that spoke of worry and sleepless nights. But there was something else to a hardness in her posture, a wariness in the way she watched his car approach. This wasn't the soft-spoken, hopeful young woman he'd left behind. This Sarah looked like someone who'd been tested by fire and emerged as forged steel. We parked and turned off the engine, his heart pounding in a way that no business deal had ever provoked. He stepped out of the car, suddenly pirouetted at how ridiculous his expensive suit looked here, how completely he'd become a stranger to this world. Sarah didn't move from the porch. She simply stood there, watching him with an expression he called into read. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The wind rushed through the nearby cottonwood trees, and somewhere in the distance, a horse whinnied. Wei, Sarah finally said, her voice flat and carefully controlled. I didn't expect to see you here. He walked toward the porch, stopping at the bottom of the steps. Up close, he could see the calluses on her hands, the dirt under her fingernails, the exhaustion that seemed to radiate from her despite her straight-backed stance. Sarah, he began, unsure how to continue. I know it has been a long time. 7 years, 2 months, and 16 days, she said without emotion. But you was counting. The precision of her answer stung more than any anger could have. Wei swallowed hard. I am sorry. I know that doesn't mean much, but I am. I should have come back sooner. I should have. What do you want? Wei, Sarah interrupted, her gray eyes meeting his directly. You didn't drive all the way from California for small talk. He hesitated, suddenly uncertain how he voiced the vague concerns that had driven him here. I mentioned you. She said you'd been through a lot. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Something flickered across Sarah's face, surprise, perhaps, or maybe fear. But it vanished so quickly Wei thought he might have imagined it. Fine, she said curtly. The farm is doing well. EV expanded into organic produce, started a CSA program, even sell at farmers markets in 3 counties. Business is good. That is not what I meant, and you know it. Sarah's grip tightened on the basket, her knuckles whitening. Then what did you mean? Before Wei could answer, a sound from inside the house made him pause. It was faint but distinct, the sound of a child laughing. Sarah's entire body went rigid, her eyes widened fractionally, and for the first time since he'd arrived, her carefully maintained composure cracked. You should go, she said quickly, her voice rising slightly. I have work to do. The screen door burst open, and a small figure came racing onto the porch, a little boy, no more than 6 years old, with straight black hair and the kind of joyful energy only children possess. He wore rain boots 2 sizes too big and carried a toy tractor in his small hands. Mommy, can I go see the new calf, please? Jake said she asked, finally standing up again. The boy froze when he saw Wei, his dark almond-shaped eyes going wide with curiosity. Wei felt the world tilt on its axis. The child had Asian features, distinctly Chinese features. His face was rounder than Wei's, softer with youth, but the resemblance was undeniable. The shape of his eyes, the set of his mouth, even the way he tilted his head slightly when curious, it was like looking at childhood photographs of himself. Lucas, Sarah said, her voice strained. Go back inside, now. But Lucas didn't dim over. He stared at Wei with open fascination, the kind of unfiltered curiosity only children could manage. Who are you? Wei couldn't speak. His throat had closed entirely. He looked from the boy to Sarah, seeing confirmation in the panic written across her face, and the way her hands trembled as she set down the basket. Lucas, I said go inside, Sarah repeated, more forcefully this time. Sensing his mother's distress, Lucas's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. Without another word, he turned and disappeared back into the house, the screen door slamming behind him. The silence that followed felt suffocating. Sarah, Wei finally managed, his voice hoarse. Is he? Dante, Sarah said sharply, holding up a hand. Dante, you got it. Is he mean? Wei demanded, finding his voice even as his world crumbled around him. Sarah, look at him. He looks exactly. You don't have the right to ask me that, Sarah said, her voice shaking with barely controlled fury. You left. You chose San Francisco over us, over me, over everything we did planned. You don't get to show up 7 years later and demand answers. I have every right. Wei shot back, his own anger rising. If the boy is my son, your son. Sarah laughed bitterly, descending the porch steps until she stood directly in front of him. You think biology makes you a father? You think showing up in your expensive car and your designer suit gives you any claim to him? He didn't know. Wei's voice broke. Sarah, if he'd known you were pregnant, would it have mattered? She interrupted. Her eyes bright with lucid tears. You were already gone, Wei. You'd already made your choice. What difference would it have made? Every difference. Wei ran his hands through his hair, his carefully constructed life suddenly feeling like a house of cards. I would have stayed. I would have lied, Sarah said softly, and somehow the quiet accusation hurt more than any shouted anger. You'd already bought the plane ticket. You'd already accepted the position with the startup. You told me it was just for 6 months, that you'd come back once you got established. But we both know that was never true. You'd made your choice long before you left. Wei wanted to argue, wanted to defend himself, but the words died in his throat. Because she was right. He'd told himself it was temporary, but deep down, he'd known. He'd known he was leaving for good, chasing a dream that hadn't room for small-town farm life or the woman who loved him. When did you find out? He asked quietly. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, her anger deflating into exhaustion. 2 weeks after you left. I took the test 3 times. Couldn't believe it. I tried calling you, must have left a dozen messages. You never called back. Wei closed his eyes, guilt washing over him like a physical weight. He remembered those early days in San Francisco, the frantic pace of the startup, the 80-hour work weeks, the way he'd let messages pile up unanswered, convincing himself he'd deal with personal matters later. Later had never come. I'm sorry, he whispered. Sarah, I'm so sorry. Your apologies don't change anything, Sarah said. They don't change the fact that I went through the pregnancy alone, that I gave birth alone. The TV raised Lucas by myself for 6 years while you were building your empire. Let me fix this, Wei said desperately. Let me be part of his life. Let me know. The word hung between them, final and absolute. Sarah, please, you don't understand, she said, her voice cracking. Lucas doesn't know. He thinks his father died before he was born. He thinks you raised some hero who never got the chance to meet him. How do I tell him the truth? How do I tell him that his father chose money over him? That's not fair, Wei protested. He didn't know life isn't fair, Sarah shouted, finally losing her composure. Tears streamed down her face. Life isn't fair to the single mother you had to give birth in hospital alone because there was no one to hold her hand. Life isn't fair to the little boy who asks why all his friends have daddies but he doesn't. Life isn't fair to the woman who had to rebuild her entire existence, all you were becoming a millionaire. Wei felt tears burning his own eyes. Then let me make it right, please, Sarah. I know I don't deserve it, but give me a chance. Let me know my son. Sarah wiped her face roughly, trying to compose herself. You need to leave. I'm not going anywhere, Wei said firmly. Not this time. That's my son and he is not your son. Sarah's voice was a near scream. Biologically, yes, but in every way that matters, he is meaning. I am the one who has been there for every scraped knee, every nightmare, every first. You're a stranger, Wei. A stranger in an expensive suit who has no idea what it means to be a parent. Before Wei could respond, the screen door opened again. This time it was a man who emerged tall, broad-shouldered, probably in his early 40s, with sandy brown hair and the weathered skin of someone who'd spent his life outdoors. He wore work clothes and carried himself with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his environment. Everything okay out here? The man asked it, his eyes moving between Sarah and Wei with clear concern. It is fine, Jake, Sarah said quickly, though her tear-stained face suggested otherwise. Wei was just leaving. Jake's expression hardened. Wei Chen? The Wei Chen? Yes, Wei said, straightening his shoulders despite feeling completely out of his depth. And you are? Jake Morrison, the man said, crossing his arms over his chest. I am Sarah's fiancé. The word hit Wei like a physical blow. Fiancé. Of course. 7 years was a long time. Why had he assumed Sarah would wait for him, pin for him, remain frozen in the past, while he built his future? Congratulations, Wei managed, so the word tasted like ash. We weren't expecting ye, Jake said, his tone making it clear why he wasn't welcome. Sarah has made it pretty clear over the years that you were not part of her life anymore. Jade, Dante, Sarah said quietly, but Jake continued, stepping protectively closer to Sarah. She has built a good life here. Lucas is happy, healthy, loved. We don't need you coming around stirring up trouble. Lucas is my son, Wei said, his voice low but firm. No, Jake replied. I am the only father that boy has ever known. I am the one who taught him to ride a bike, who reads him bedtime stories, who takes him fishing on Saturdays. You were just someone who shares his DNA. The words stung because they were true. We had missed everything, the first words, the first steps, the first day of school. He'd been absent for all the moments that mattered, all the little pieces that made up a childhood. And now this man, this stranger, had taken his place. He didn't know, we said again, hating how weak it sounded. Doesn't matter, Jake said bluntly. You can't just walk back here and claim him now. It doesn't work that way. Wei looked at Sarah, desperate for some sign that not all hope was lost. Please, just let me get to know him. I am not trying to disrupt your life or take him away. I need to know my son. Sarah's face was a battlefield of emotions: anger, fear, pity, and something else Wei couldn't identify. For a long moment, she said nothing, just stared at him with those gray eyes that had once looked at him with such love. 1 week, she finally said. You can stay in town for 1 week. You'll think about whether I am willing to introduce you to Lucas. But I make no promises, Wei. And if I'd see the answer is no, you have to respect it. You have to leave and not come back. Sarah Jake began, clearly unhappy with even this concession. I guess my decision, Sarah said firmly, glancing at her fiancé. He is Lucas's biological father. Maybe he deserves a chance to at least meet him, but on my terms, in my team. Jake looked like he wanted to add it but finally nodded stiffly. Whatever you think is best. Wei felt a surge of gratitude mixed with anxiety. Thank you. Sarah, thank you. You'll stay at the motel in town. You can reach me whenever time to get your hopes up. Sarah interrupted. I said he'd think about it. That is all. With that, she turned and walked back into the house, Jake following after, shooting Wei one more warning glare. The screen door slammed shut, leaving Wei alone in the yard with the wind and the weight of 7 years of mistakes. He returned to his car, his hands shaking as he gripped the steering wheel. Through the farmhouse window, he could see movement, the silhouette of a small figura, Lucas, peering out at the strange car in the driveway. Wei raised his hand in an uncertain wave. After a moment, the boy waved back before a hand Sarah's hand gently pulled him away from the window. Driving back toward town, Wei felt like he was navigating through fog. Everything he thought he knew about his life had just been upended. He had a son, a 6-year-old son, who didn't know he existed, who thought he was dead. You had another man filling the role Wei should have occupied. The Willow Creek Motel was a modest establishment on Main Street, the kind of place that catered mainly to hunters and the occasional tourist passing through the Glacier National Park. Wei checked in a room that smelled faintly of bean cleaner and stale coffee. He sat on the edge of the creaky bed, his expensive suit feeling increasingly absurd. His phone buzzed. It was my, "Did you find what you were looking for?" His sister asked the text read. Wei stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "Why didn't you tell me?" The response came quickly. "It wasn't my secret to tell." "Are you angry?" "I don't know what I am," Wei typed. "Did you know she was engaged?" "Yes." "Jake is a good man. He loves Lucas like his own. The whole town respects them." Wei set his phone down, unable to continue the conversation. He stood and walked to the small window, looking out at the quiet main street of Willow Creek. This town had been his home once, back when he first immigrated from China at age 20, knowing no one, speaking broken English, desperate for work and a new start. Sarah had found him at the cafe, of all places. He'd been standing alone, looking lost, and she simply walked up and started talking to him. Her warmth and openness completely foreign to someone who'd grown up in the competitive pressure cooker of Shanghai. She'd helped him find work on her family's farm, taught him English idioms, shown him the beauty of Montana's big sky country. They'd fallen in love slowly, naturally, like the changing of seasons. Sarah had seen something in him that no one else had: potential, drive, a brilliant mind trapped by circumstance. She'd encouraged him to take online courses, to dream bigger than farm labor. And when that startup in San Francisco had reached out, offering him a junior position based on the coding portfolio he'd built in his spare time, Sarah had been the one to push him to take it. "Go," she'd said. "Follow your dreams. You'll be here when you get back." But he hadn't come back. The startup had exploded. His stock options had made him wealthy beyond anything he'd imagined, and somewhere along the way, he'd convinced himself that the life he'd left behind was too small for who he'd become. Now, staring out at this quiet town, we realized he'd been wrong about everything. Success, wealth, achievement, none of it filled the hollowness inside him. None of it could replace what he'd lost. Over the next 3 days, Wei found himself trapped in an agonizing limbo. He'd given Sarah his number, and each time his phone buzzed, his heart would leap, only to sink when it turned out to be a business email or message from my checking in on him. He spent his time walking around town, rediscovering places he'd forgotten. The diner where he and Sarah used to have breakfast on Sundays. the library where Sarah had helped him practice his English, the small park where they had their first kiss under the cottonwood trees. The town had changed, but not much. A few new businesses, some old ones closed, but the pace remained the same, slow, steady, grounded in rhythms older than any individual life. On the fourth day, Wei drove out to the farm again, unable to stay away. He parked by the road, not wanting to intrude, and simply watched from a distance. He saw Lucas playing in the yard with Jake, the two of them tossing a football back and forth. The boy's laughter carried across the fields, and Wei felt his heart breaking and mending simultaneously. That evening, his phone finally rang. It was Sarah. "Tomorrow," she said without preamble. "Come to the farm at 4 in the afternoon. We'll talk." "Thank you," Wei breathed. "Sarah, thank you," but she'd already hung up. Wei barely slept that night, his mind racing through countless scenarios. What would he say to Lucas? How did you introduce yourself to your own child? How did you compress 7 years of absence into words that a 6-year-old could understand? The next afternoon, Wei drove out to the farm with his stomach in knots. He'd abandoned his suit for jeans and the simple button-down shirt, trying to look less like a wealthy outsider and more like someone who belonged in this world. Sarah was waiting on the porch, her arms crossed. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept much either. "Before you come in," she said as we approached, "we need to establish ground rules." "Of course. Anything." First said, "We were not telling him today that you were his father. I need to gauge how you interact, how he responds to you. This isn't about you getting what you want, it's about what is best for Lucas." Wei nodded, swallowing his disappointment. "I understand. Second, if at any point I feel this is too much for him, or if I think you are being inappropriate, you leave immediately. No arguments." "Agreed." "Third, Jake will be here. I know that might be uncomfortable for you, but Lucas sees him as a father figure. I want to exclude him from this." That won't stand, but we forced himself to nod. "Whatever you think is best." Sarah studied him for a long moment, as if trying to determine whether he was sincere. Finally, she opened the door. The farmhouse interior was cozy and lived in, with family photos on the walls and toys scattered in the corners. Wei could smell something baking cookies, maybe, and hear the distant sound of a television. "Lucas," Sarah called out, "can you come here, please?" The little boy appeared from the living room, still wearing those oversized rain boots. When he saw Wei, he stopped, suddenly shy. "Lucas, this is Wei Chen," Sarah said carefully. "He is an old friend of mine from before you were born. He is visiting Willow Creek for a few days, and I thought it would be nice if you two met." Lucas studied Wei with the unnerving directness of children. "Are you from China? You look Chinese." "Lucas," Sarah said, mortified, but Wei laughed, the first genuine laugh he managed in days. "It is okay," he assured her. "Yes, Lucas, I am from China. I was born in Shanghai." "That is so far away," Lucas said, his eyes widening. "Did you fly at an airplane?" "I did." "Have you ever been on an airplane?" Lucas shook his head. "Mommy says maybe when you're older we can go to Disneyland." "Disneyland is wonderful," Wei said, kneeling down to be at eye level with the boy. "I've been there a few times. Do you like roller coasters?" "I don't know," Lucas admitted, "but I really like tractors." "Do you like tractors?" Wei smiled, feeling tears prick his eyes at the innocent question. "I used to work with tractors, actually. I used to work on this farm, a long time ago." "Really?" Lucas's face lit up. "Did you know my mommy then?" "I did. Your mommy is one of the best people you've ever known." Lucas seemed to accept this as perfectly logical. "Do you want to see the new calf? Her name is Daisy and she is only 3 days old." Wei glanced at Sarah, who gave a small nod. He'd love to see Daisy. For the next hour, we experienced a joy he'd never known existed. Lucas, once his shyness wore off, was a sitterbuck, explaining everything about the farm with the enthusiasm only a child could muster. They visited Daisy, who was indeed adorable, met the chickens Lucas could name all 15, and checked on the vegetable garden, where Lucas proudly showed Wei the pumpkins he'd helped plant. Jake appeared periodically, maintaining a watchful distance but not interfering. Wei appreciated the restraint, even as he felt the other men's eyes on him constantly, assessing, judging. At one point, Lucas grabbed Wei's hand to pull him toward the greenhouse, and Wei felt his breath catch. Such a small hand, so trusting, so warm. His son's hand. Sarah watched from the porch, her expression unreadable. As the sun began to set, painting the Montana sky in shades of orange and purple, Lucas started to titter. His bursts of energy became less frequent, his sentences shorter. I think it is time for Mr. Chen to go, Sarah said gently. It is almost your bedtime. Lucas' fast fell. Already, but he didn't see my room yet. Maybe another team, we said, though his heart is at the possibility that there might not be another team. Will you come back? Lucas asked it, looking up at Wei with those dark as Wei's eyes. Wei glanced at Sarah, who gave the slightest nod. If your mom says it is okay, he'd like that very much. It is okay, right, mommy? Lucas looked at Sarah hopefully. We'll see, Sarah said in the eternal answer of parents everywhere. Lucas seemed satisfied with this. To Wei's surprise, the boy suddenly hugged him a quick, fierce embrace that lasted only a second before Lucas pulled away, embarrassed by his own boldness. Bye, Lucas said shyly, then ran into the house. Wei stood frozen, his arms still raised from the incomplete hug, his eyes burning with wounded tears. You should go, Sarah said quietly, but her tone was softer than it had been in days. Wei nodded, not trusting his voice. He walked to his car, Sarah following behind. As he reached for the door handle, Sarah spoke again. He liked you. Wei turned to face her. I liked him too. Yes. Sarah, he is amazing. You've done an incredible job raising him. I had help, Sarah said, glancing back at the house where Jake had appeared in the doorway. He couldn't have done it alone. I'm sorry he wasn't here to help you. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself against the evening chill. We need to talk. Really talk. There are things you need to understand before we go any further with this. Okay, Wei said immediately. When? Tomorrow. The diner on Main Street, 10 in the morning. Don't bring Jake or Lucas or anyone else. Just you and me. You'll be there. Sarah nodded and turned to walk back to the house, but she paused halfway and looked back. Wei, today wasn't just about you meeting Lucas. It was about me seeing if you did change, if you were capable of being what he needs. I'm still not sure you are, but you did better than I expected. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. We clung to it like a lifeline as he drove back to town. That night, we called his office in San Francisco and told his assistant to clear his schedule for the next 2 weeks. Whatever it took, however long it took, he wasn't leaving Montana until he'd figured out where he stood with his son. The next morning, we arrived at the diner 15 minutes early. The copper kettle hadn't changed at all. Same red vinyl booth, same black and white checkered floor, same menu featuring comfort food and strong coffee. He ordered coffee and waited, his leg bouncing nervously under the table. Sarah arrived exactly at 10, sliding into the booth across from him. She ordered coffee as well, and for a few moments, they sat in silence, both uncertain how to begin. Thank you for yesterday, Wei finally said. It meant everything to me. It wasn't for you, Sarah replied. It was for Lucas. He deserves to know who his father is, even if his father doesn't deserve to know him. We absorbed the blow without flinching. You were right, but I want to be better. Tell me what I need to do. Sarah took a sip of coffee, gathering her thoughts. First, you need to understand what you were asking for. You can't just be a part of Lucas's life when it is convenient. You can't show up for a week, play the hero, and then disappear back to California when you get bored, when it gets hard. I want to do that. You already did, Sarah said sharply. 7 years ago, you did exactly that. Why should I believe you've changed? Because I was young and stupid and arrogant. Wei said, his voice intense. Because I thought success meant money and status and power. Because he didn't understand what actually mattered until I saw what he'd lost. Pretty words, Wei. But Lucas needs more than pretty words. He needs consistency, reliability, someone who shows up, day after day, even when it is not exciting or rewarding. I know. Do you? Sarah leaned forward. Do you understand what it is like to be a parent? To put someone else's needs before your own, always, every single day? To be exhausted and frustrated and scared but keep going anyway because that little person depends on you? No, Wei admitted. I don't understand it, but I want to learn. I want to be there for them, Sarah. For both of you, if you'll let me. Sarah's eyes narrowed. This isn't about me anymore. Evie moved on. Jake proposed last month, and I said yes. We were getting married next spring. The words hurt, but we forced himself to accept them. I am happy for you. I mean that. You deserve someone who appreciates what they have. Jake is a good man, Sarah said defensively. He has been there for Lucas since he was 2 years old. He loves him. I am not trying to replace Jake, we said carefully, but I am Lucas's father. Does he count for something? Does it? Sarah challenged. You weren't there when I was sick with morning sickness every day for 4 months. You weren't there when I went into labor 3 weeks early and nearly died from complications. You weren't there for his first Christmas, his first birthday, his first day of kindergarten. You weren't there when he had nightmares or when he got bullied at school or when he had pneumonia last winter and I sat up with him for 3 nights straight. Jake was there for all of that. So tell me, Wei, what exactly do you think being a father means? Wei felt each word like a blow, but he didn't look away. You were right. He wasn't there. I can never get those years back, and I can never make up for missing them. But I am here now. And if you give me a chance, I'll be here tomorrow and the day after that and every day for the rest of my life. I'll be whatever Lucas needs me to be, even if that is just someone on the periphery, someone he sees a few times a year. I'll take whatever you are willing to give me. Sarah studied him for a long moment. What about your life in San Francisco? Your company? I can work remotely, we said immediately. I can open an office here in Montana. I can sell the company if I have to. None of it matters if I can be part of Lucas's life. You did give up everything you've built. Sarah sounded skeptical. In a heartbeat, Wei said, and realized he meant it. I spent 7 years building something I thought mattered. But yesterday, watching Lucas show me around the farm, seeing how excited he got about a baby calf and a vegetable garden that mattered more than every business deal he ever made, that is what I should have been building all along. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Don't make promises you can keep. I am not. Sarah, I know I screwed up. I know I have no right to ask for anything. But I am begging you give me a chance to be part of his life. Let me prove that EVE changed. It is not just about what you want, Sarah said. What about what Jake wants? He is going to be Lucas's stepfather. He has a say in this too. I understand it, and I respect it. I am not trying to push him out. There is room for both of us in Lucas's life. Sarah sighed heavily. This is so complicated. I never thought you'd have to deal with this. I thought you were gone for good. I thought I was told, Wei admitted. But seeing him, Sarah, it is like waking up from a 7-year coma. Everything I thought was important just fell away. All I could see was this little boy, and how much he missed. He is going to have questions eventually, Sarah said. Right now he thinks you were just an old friend. But if you were going to be around regularly, he'll start to wonder. Kids are perceptive. When do we tell him? I don't know, Sarah said, rubbing her temples.